So before we jump into this video, I just want to point out that I'm kind of playing catch up on some content that I want to do this week that came in at sort of the end of last week. I was already traveling for the walkaway rallies, anytime I travel for a walkaway rally, we're always really busy. And I bring that up because this week's content might be a little sporadic. We're doing 2 rallies this week. We're going to Pittsburgh, I think. I'm going to Pittsburgh on Friday for a rally on Saturday. Then immediately after the rally, all of us are just caravanning out to the airport to get on an airplane to go right to Atlanta to do another rally the very next day. We may also be going somewhere for election night. We don't really know yet. We're figuring it all out. I bring that up just because my content this week might be a little sporadic. I know you guys understand everything is going to ease back into some semblance of normalcy after election day. But also, I bring that up because this is actually a story I wanted to cover last week, and I just didn't get a chance to. It started with me becoming aware of this series of tweets from Lori Garrett. Now, I don't really pay attention to names of journalists, so I had no idea who this person was, but apparently, according to her Twitter profile, a recipient of the Pulitzer Prize, the Polk, the Peabody Awards. In other words, she's one of those journalists, those very, very special journalists. You can draw whatever conclusions you like about what I mean by that. But Lori tweeted out this series of tweets. Attention! While you were sleeping, Trump issued an edict that eliminates jobs protections for tens of thousands, maybe millions of federal employees, all involved in policymaking. It paves the way for a mass firing of government employees. Now, Lori is getting her information from this article from Stars and Stripes, but she's mostly basically saying the same thing in the Twitter thread that are said in that article, so we're just going to keep going here. The edict strips long-held civil service protections from employees whose work involves policymaking, allowing them to be dismissed with little cause or recourse, much like the political appointees who come and go with each administration. She continues, federal scientists, attorneys, regulators, public health experts, and many others in senior roles would lose rights to due process and in some cases union representation at agencies across the government. The White House declined to say how many jobs would be swept into a class of employees with fewer civil rights, but civil service rights, but civil service experts and union leaders estimated anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands in the workforce of 2.1 million. So, okay, and then some examples. I'm going to be ethically honest and finish this complete thread. Some examples of people who could lose their job would no longer be protected. U.S. FDA scientists who resist rapid drug and vaccine approvals demanded by the White House, NIH scientists who deny COVID lies and distortions, CDC policymakers that insist on lockdown approaches to COVID, any scientists calling out climate change. Of course, Lori's making this stuff up. She has absolutely no, I know I said I was going to finish the thread, but I want to point this out. She has absolutely no proof that those are the specific people he's going at. She's just saying that here they could be fired and they could be fired for these reasons. Don't journalists that do things like win Pulitzer Prizes actually need to back up what they say in public with facts? I was flying back to New Hampshire last night and I was having a chat with the guy in the seat next to me, and he and I both had a couple of drinks. He had way more to drink than I had, but he was obviously inebriated, and we were talking about politics, and he was airing his beliefs that Trump is absolutely going to win re-election, and I agreed with him. And this woman sitting behind me pops into the conversation. We were talking about the Hunter Biden tape. She pops her head into the conversation and says, "Excuse me, I am a member of the media and I really think that you should verify your sources before you state things out loud." And so I turned around to her and I said, "Oh, you're a journalist? You're probably a liar then, because these people lie all the time. There is no proof that I know of that Trump did this in order to go after these specific people. I think there's a very clear reason Trump did it. I'm going to talk about that in a sec, but let's finish Lori's thread here. Let's get through it. This is all in line with a 2017 White House document that I warned at the time was the Trump's master plan for destroying the administrative and regulatory government. Does anyone not want to destroy the administrative and regulatory government? I'm sorry, what? Like, why is this a bad thing? I don't understand. It was drafted during Steve Bannon's time at the White House and reflects his anti-government views. It's an attempt to redefine the civil service as a political arm of the presidency rather than public servants who work for the American people, as if civil servants can't be biased themselves, and many of them are biased against Trump and have been actively working against what he's been doing for the past 4 years. Breyer said, calling the result open cronyism that does not benefit the country, but the president. The order would shift the affected employees from what is known as competitive service, which covers the bulk of the executive branch, into the accepted service, which applies to political appointees below the level requiring confirmation. All right, here is my big issue with this. Here is the big problem that I have with the way that Lori has analyzed this, and I followed up with a tweet basically saying that. So here's my broad understanding. So what you mean is that Trump made it so federal employees have to live with the same employment at will terms that the vast majority of the general public do. Good. Most people are employed at will, meaning they can be fired at any time for any reason or no reason at all. And this is absolutely true. If you are watching this video right now, the chances are, something like 99%, that you are in a job that you can leave at any time for any reason or for no reason. You can also be fired at any time for any reason or for no reason. That is the basic idea of employment at will. Now, does employment at will cause problems? Yeah, it does. I mean, listen, guys, I have seen people get fired for absolutely BS nonsense reasons on multiple occasions. I have been fired for BS nonsense reasons on multiple occasions. So it does have some drawbacks. But here is the thing. Why should federal employees get to be held to a different expectation than the general public? Because most people do not have these types of protections. Most people in most jobs do not have these types of protections. And I'm sorry to say that because you're in civil service, you just have no bias and you're working for the good of the American people. That is absolute nonsense. And we have known that from the very beginning. If there are people in government positions that are not doing their jobs, that are doing a half-assed version of their job, who are actively working against what the administration is trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish because they don't personally agree with it, I want them gone. And I want it to be easy to make them gone because that's the way it should work, man. Elections have consequences. And I think that it is a very, very good thing to make it easier to fire federal employees when they're not doing their job. This just makes sense to me. And it also makes sense in that I don't believe that federal employees should get completely different protections than just the average American employee. The average American employee is an employed at will employee. They can be fired at any time. Their boss can make up a reason and fire them, or they can get fired for cause, or any number of reasons. But why are civil service jobs that people can get into and then basically sit on their butts and not do anything for years, why are those jobs protected, but the average American worker is not protected? That just doesn't make any sense. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't really look that strongly into this when I made this tweet, and so it was a little irresponsible. I understand. I wasn't 100% sure I had interpreted this correctly until I read this article from The Hill this morning. Well, it was published yesterday. I read it this morning, and I just want to point out the first couple paragraphs. A top appointee to the panel that advises the government on employee compensation resigned Monday over a recent order from President Trump that would strip some federal workers of their employment protections. Apparently, this guy wants these people never to be fired so badly that he himself quit. I don't know what sense that makes, but whatever. Ronald Sanders, a Republican who has served under administrations of both parties, said he could not continue as the chair of the Federal Salary Council when the president's new order seeks to make loyalty to him the litmus test for many thousands of career civil servants. I don't think that's what he's doing. I think that is a gross mischaracterization of what he's doing. He's trying to make it easier to fire people who are not doing their jobs. That's what he's trying to do. But then I felt vindicated when I got to this third paragraph. It says, Trump's order, issued Wednesday, is being criticized by unions as the biggest change to federal workforce protections in a century, converting many federal workers to at-will employment. I was right. That is all that this is doing, and I say bravo. You need to make it, like, if you have to spend months or even years working to firing someone, it gives you a dramatic disincentivization to do it, even if that person's not doing their job, even if that person is a roadblock, even if that person is putting up more red tape than is ever really necessary. You need to be able to get people who are not doing their jobs out of those jobs. Now, do I believe that in the process of this, some people are probably going to be fired for BS reasons? Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to be the case. That happens in literally every organization out there. And if you don't like it, then you should change the laws around at-will employment and you should make them apply to everyone. Why do government workers get special protections that the average American doesn't get? That makes absolutely no sense to me. So I am completely in favor of this simply from a position of fairness. I think if the average employee is employed at will and they can be fired at any time for any reason or no reason at all, then why shouldn't that apply to the government as well? That just makes sense to me. I don't think Trump's trying to do anything nefarious with this. I think that what he's trying to do is set it up for when he gets reelected. And yeah, I said when he gets reelected in his second term, basically cleaning house. That's what I think he's going to do. And I think that less government bureaucracy is, frankly, a good thing. Listen, I have been saying for months that I think that Trump effectively established a third party. I think that the Republicans, like the traditional freaking neocons, or you see from the Lincoln Project, those types of Republicans, conservatives. Now, I'm not saying like conservatives that like support Trump, but like those traditional conservatives that like hate Trump with every fiber of their being. Like, that's the establishment. The Democrats are the establishment. The Republicans and the Democrats together are establishment. If you support Trump, I think that you're effectively a member of a third party that basically is saying, F you to the establishment. We don't want you guys pulling this nonsense anymore. We want less government interference in our lives, and Trump is making that happen. So I don't think he's using this to become like an autocrat. Trump doesn't operate like that. It just doesn't make any sense. If you look at what he actually does, he is not this authoritarian dictator. It just doesn't, like, he keeps people employed that go against him all the time. Look at Fauci. Trump doesn't like Fauci at all, but he hasn't fired Fauci. Like, nothing's really happened. And so I don't think that he's doing this for any sort of nefarious reasons. I think he's doing it because he wants to clean house come January. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. If you enjoyed this content, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. There's a button down there that you can subscribe. And if you think you're subscribed, just double check and make sure for me, because sometimes YouTube likes to unsubscribe people without them actually doing it for what I think are probably obvious reasons. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.